I'm Irene Pletka, and I'm here in her kitchen with Ruth Freed, a friend of mine of long standing, and we're going to talk about Kreplekh. Kreplekh were the favorite food for special occasions. Why? Because making them's a bother. The first thing you have to do is make the dough. And the dough is the same dough as you make for pasta. So I use 2 cups of flour. Now I have pasta flour, it's finely milled, but you can use plain flour, 2 eggs, and if you need it, an eggshell full tablespoon or 2 of water, and if you like, a pinch of salt. The thing is, they have a long history. I mean, essentially, they are filled pasta, like ravioli, when these things came into Eastern Europe. So the Jews brought them from France and Germany. The Poles called them pierogi, the Ukrainians called them vareniki, and it's all the same thing. Don't tell anybody. Frankly, it doesn't matter if you have a little more or a little less, because you can adjust. So, 1 egg, 2 egg, pinch of this very
exotic salt.
Beautiful coarse pink salt, just a nice healthy pinch of salt. As with everything, you don't know how much moisture the flour will absorb, how much moisture the eggs will give you, and so you do it by feel. I know that for people who follow recipes very exactly, that's frustrating, but that's really the way that people cook. Okay, let me get a bit of water. As the dough starts to mix, you'll watch the texture change. So one of the things that you can do is test, right? So let me show you the texture. You can see that that is kind of sticking together, and the way that you can tell if it's really ready is when you stick your fingers together like that, it stays. So that's essentially it. Really, really, really easy. We're running it through a fabulous machine that actually does all the kneading and rolling for you. You know, the Italian mamas who roll out pasta by hand have forearms like a boxer. And what you have to do is you have to let it rest for 30 minutes or longer. I always do it overnight. I do it the night before. Dough into the fridge. So the next thing that we do is that we make the filling for the Kreplekh. As with many things from Eastern Europe, first thing you do is you chop up an onion. And optionally, some garlic as well. And we're going to chop up onions and fry them not in oil, but in goose fat, because that is what will give you an extraordinary taste. And I save the fat from the geese that I roast and keep it in the freezer. It'll keep for a year in the freezer. You can use duck fat, you can use chicken fat, you can of course use oil, preferably not olive oil because it has a strong taste. You want to use a flavorless oil like canola oil or grapeseed oil or rice bran oil, but if you really want the authentic taste, you use schmaltz. So you brown the onions until they are a nice sort of golden color and jammy in texture.
And you can smell the delicious.
And you can smell. Right, so the traditional filling was lung. Lung, and you may say yuck, but you know, if you live in North America, probably. If you live in Austria, it's a delicacy, it's called Beuschel. If you live in most parts of Europe, people will eat this, but this was the absolutely traditional filling for Kreplekh, and they didn't tell you that, so what you didn't know didn't hurt you. That's what they look like. When they come out of the animal, this is a lamb, and we are going to cut them up. I'm going to cut it up into small pieces, so you know, it has all these sacks in it. You don't have to look at it if you don't want to. But we're just going to cut it up, and then it's all going to go into the grinder with the onions, with some parsley. Now, I will tell you, how do you know when the lungs are cooked? Well, somebody told me when they whistle. I'm not kidding. When they whistle, when the air sacs close, then it's cooked. So we're going to listen for the whistle. And by the way, what's the difference between kosher and black kosher? Turns out that it is actually the condition of the lungs, because if they are smooth, glut, that's what glut kosher is.
Because the word glut means smooth.
The word glut means smooth in Yiddish. Yes, exactly. We're going to avoid all the nasty bits, the windpipe. In fact, when an animal is slaughtered, the entire stuff that comes out of the middle, the lungs, the kidneys, the liver, the windpipe, everything, that is called the plug. Okay, here we go. In between the frying sound, which you can recognize, you can hear a squeak, squeak. That is the lung cooking. Yeah? Those squeaky sounds, that's the sound of the lungs cooking. Okay. You might think it's gross. I think it's kind of cool. So here are the cooked onions and lungs, and they're still squeaking a bit. And we're going to let them cool, and we're going to put them through the meat grinder with some parsley. So obviously parsley is optional, but you know, I always like the taste of parsley. I think it livens up the taste of meat. And of course what you need is a nice dollop of salt and pepper. Pepper, nice fresh cracked pepper, and maybe that much salt. And it'll all blend together in the mix. Now,
It smells delicious.
should be. It's the traditional filling for Kreplekh.
It's just to make sure I get everything through.
I was about to say, my mother used to put a piece of bread in it. Okay? So that's the filling for the Kreplekh. That's the filling. We'll let it cool a little bit, but you can see it's got a nice sort of texture. So I tasted this. It's very nice. It's a little bland. I'm going to add a little paprika. Just maybe half a teaspoon. And that'll give us a little more zing to it. That's nice. That's very nice. It's going to be lovely. So this is the block of pasta, the dough that I had in the fridge overnight. And Ruth, you've never made pasta?
I've not.
Okay, well, this is the overcoat for the Kreplekh. Okay, so usually I take maybe a little more than a third. Put that over there, and this magical machine will roll it out for us. So actually what I did was, by rolling it through the machine like that, I did the kneading that everybody did with a rolling pin, and I just pressed a button. So you have to actually process the pasta until it's really satiny smooth. That's the best way of doing it. So I'm going to keep doing this. So now we've got a nice smooth texture. You see, it's really, really satiny smooth. So now we're going to move the rollers closer together to make the pasta finer. So this is the finest setting. So there we are with the pasta, really, really fine. And let's cut it in half so that we can have it all here. And normally what you do for kreplekh is you cut it into squares, you put a dollop on, you make it into a little triangle. And I got this fancy cutter. And let's see, well, how big do we want the squares?
Yeah, probably not much bigger than that.
That big?
Yeah,
That big?
yeah.
Okay, so. And there.
Yes.
Okay. So the way to do it is maybe a dollop of filling like that, right? And yeah, we didn't cut it into a square. Whoops. Okay, Ruth, this needs to be really a square, so we can use those half cuts later. And so it's about a teaspoon of filling, but no more, 1.5 teaspoons. And whoops, this is better. You're on fork detail.
I'm on detail.
Right,
Fancy.
okay. So we have filled, prepared, and even taste tested the kreplekh, and we think they're pretty good, but later on we're going to actually put them in soup and give them to people to taste and see what they say.
It's good. What strikes me about all this cooking is what strikes me about all of Middle Eastern cooking and a lot of some European cooking. We don't have money, but we've got time. We can spend time cooking because we can't buy it. We can't afford to buy it.
It's true, it's true.
And I've got Italian friends who migrated to Australia in the 50s and 60s, like even into the 70s, and they said, we made everything because we didn't have the money to buy anything. Then it became a point of family pride that you made things, you didn't buy them. And so the third generation that now gets involved in passata days is about keeping the family together.
You know, food is really one of the vehicles of culture. I mean, culture is handed down very much through the food.
And that's because everyone's at a table. And Jewish cooking in particular, because of Shabbat and all the other festivals, the people are brought together often. The taste of particular dishes is the taste of memory and family life.